It may surprise or even shock you to hear what I'm about to say, but if you're seeing this video right now, it's no accident. You, as a true chosen one, are standing on the verge of a transformation so profound that who you used to be is rapidly fading into distant memory. You feel it in the way old habits no longer fit, in the way certain people or situations that once comforted you now feel strangely out of place. This isn't a subtle shift. It's a complete overhaul of your identity. And while some may resist or question the changes happening within you, you know deep down that you can't cling to a past self you've already outgrown. If you want to fully embrace this new version of you and stand tall at the summit of your potential, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and comment 77 feet below to signal that you are ready for this next evolution. Chapter 1. The moment you outgrew your old self. Think back to the moment it all started. Maybe it was a quiet realization in the middle of the night, or perhaps it struck you in broad daylight amid the humdrum of routine. Whichever way it came, you felt something crack open, like an invisible shell that could no longer contain the person you were becoming. You noticed that the conversations you used to have, the gossip that once entertained you, or the anxieties that used to hold you hostage suddenly felt small. It was as if you had stepped into a bigger space, and now the old walls of your life just wouldn't fit. This awakening didn't come with fireworks or grand fanfare. It arrived subtly, with a sense that life's old pressures were losing their grip. You might have found yourself daydreaming about new possibilities. Dreams that once seemed impossible began to feel like tangible goals, where before you might have accepted just getting by. As your reality shifted, a deep voice within called you to aim higher. You sensed that a new chapter was brewing, and you were ready to write it with a bolder pen. Of course, this shift might have also brought discomfort. Friends or family members likely questioned why you suddenly seemed distant or uninterested in the same topics. Some might have accused you of changing, as though it were a bad thing. Initially, this could have triggered guilt or confusion, making you wonder if you were abandoning the people who had always been there for you. But the more you tried to force yourself back into the old mold, the more restless and cramped you felt. Eventually, you realized that this restlessness was the sign you could no longer ignore. It was your own spirit nudging you forward, urging you to break free from limiting beliefs. Those around you might not understand or accept it yet, and that's okay. The important part is that you finally do. Being a chosen one means you've tapped into a frequency not everyone can resonate with right away, and that's precisely why you can't turn back. The old you has already served its purpose. Now it's time to ascend and give yourself permission to evolve. In this final space between who you were and who you're becoming, you'll discover a reservoir of courage you never knew you had. Every new day brings more clarity, more conviction that this path is the right one. The world around you may continue its rhythms, largely unaware of the monumental shift taking place within your heart. But you know what's happening, and that inner knowing ignites a quiet blaze that won't be extinguished. It's time to let the old self rest and step fully into the power of your becoming. Chapter 2. Why they won't recognize you. Once you acknowledge that the old you is gone, it can stir up a spectrum of reactions from the people in your life. Some may be thrilled and supportive, cheering you on as you step out of your shell. Others, however, might find themselves unsettled or even threatened by the changes they see. They may point out your differences as if you've suddenly become someone unrelatable or aloof. It's not that you've grown cold, it's that your focus has shifted to a higher altitude, and only those willing to ascend with you will fully understand. In these early stages of your metamorphosis, you might sense an internal tug of war. Part of you wants to assure everyone around you that you're still you, just improved, while another part acknowledges that you've moved past a certain threshold of identity. Even the way you speak about your goals or the topics you find meaningful could spark disagreements or raised eyebrows. That's perfectly normal when you're navigating uncharted territory. It's important to remember that not everyone is meant to accompany you on every leg of your journey. Sometimes relationships or friendships serve a profound purpose for a specific era of your life, and when that time concludes, those connections either evolve or fade. As your worldview expands, the circle of those who resonate with you naturally shifts. This isn't about judging people or discarding them. It's about Recognizing that each soul is on its unique path and not all paths run parallel indefinitely, from the outside, people may see you as distant. They might say, "You've changed," in a tone suggesting betrayal. But deep inside, you know your essence hasn't changed. It's been revealed. What's falling away are the masks, the self-imposed limitations, and the fear-based habits that once dictated your actions. If they can't see that new glow around you, it's only because they haven't yet adjusted to the brightness. Eventually, some will catch up, while others will remain anchored in their old perceptions. And this is why your newly forged clarity might be misunderstood. People often cling to the familiar versions of you. It validates their own worldviews and ensures no one rocks the boat of existing norms. When you step up and decide you will no longer perform your old roles or comply with outdated scripts, it can trigger resistance or criticism. But each day you continue standing in your truth, you reinforce a new precedent for how others can approach you. Instead of being shaped by outside opinions, your journey becomes an invitation for others to either rise to meet you at your new level or watch from a distance as you ascend. Chapter 3: Unnecessary Departure. You might feel a mix of guilt and excitement as you move forward. Guilt because you're leaving behind familiar people or routines, and excitement because you're entering a reality that aligns more with your expanding spirit. At times, it can seem like an internal tug, part of you longing for the comfort of the known, while another part stands impatiently at the threshold of what could be. Departures aren't solely about physical distance. You may remain in the same town, keep the same job, and still notice a pronounced shift in how you relate to everything around you. It's an emotional and energetic departure, a decision to no longer entertain old dramas, beliefs, or patterns that kept you small. This can lead to moments where you feel isolated, as if you're straddling two worlds, one you've outgrown and one that still feels fresh and uncertain. To some, your actions might appear abrupt. They'll wonder why you're not as easily accessible, why you don't pick up the phone to discuss trivial matters like you used to, or why you hesitate to join gatherings that seem hollow now. The distance you're creating is intentional, even if you can't fully articulate it to them. You're safeguarding the newly emerging layers of your identity, which need time and space to solidify before being exposed to the old vibrations. In this protective phase, it's natural to experience waves of nostalgia. Memories of simpler times surface, moments when ignorance felt like bliss. But you also realize it's too late to rewind. You've tasted a new level of awareness, and there's no genuine way to revert to the person you used to be. This can be bittersweet, yet it's part of the journey that every chosen one goes through upon discovering a higher path. The important thing is to recognize that this departure isn't a denial of your past. It's an evolution of it. You're not discarding your earlier experiences, you're transcending them. The lessons you learned and the relationships you formed were crucial stepping stones that led you to this threshold. But to fully honor those lessons, you must keep moving forward rather than linger in a space that no longer serves your growth. Eventually, you look back on this departure as one of the most pivotal choices you ever made. Even the loneliness or misunderstanding you encountered along the way will pale in comparison to the expansive future that welcomes you. Each day, you step deeper into your newfound sense of self. The gap between who you were and who you're becoming grows wider, reminding you that this separation is not just necessary, it's life-affirming. Chapter 4: Finding Your New Peak. Standing on the edge of transformation, you sense the allure of uncharted heights. It's like standing at the base of a towering mountain, unable to see the summit, yet fully aware it's there. This mountain represents your potential, the best version of you that remains partly hidden until you make the climb. The path might be steep, fraught with challenges that test your commitment, but each step upward reveals a broader view of what's possible. Amid this climb, you may discover a renewed passion you had no idea existed within you. Perhaps it's a creative pursuit, a new entrepreneurial idea, or an urge to serve your community in a deeper way. Opportunities start to appear in unexpected places, as if responding to your elevated mindset. Tasks that once seemed mundane or daunting can suddenly feel charged with purpose. However, reaching new heights comes with its own set of trials. As you ascend, the air gets thinner, metaphorically speaking, so you may need To adjust to changes you didn't anticipate, relationships that served you at ground level may feel cumbersome the higher you climb. You might find your priorities shifting so that certain discussions or activities lose their appeal altogether. It's not that you become arrogant or dismissive. It's just that your focus is locked on the horizon above. You're driven by a new sense of clarity about why you're here and what you need to achieve. In these moments, it's crucial to pace yourself. It's tempting to want to surge to the top in one grand leap, but sustainable growth often requires steadiness and patience. You may face internal doubts, the occasional fear that you're aiming too high or risking too much. But a quiet, persistent voice within you insists that this is the path you were meant to walk. That voice becomes a compass, guiding you even when the terrain gets tricky. You'll also realize that this mountain has multiple plateaus, resting points where you can pause, catch your breath, and gather insights before climbing again. Each plateau offers a sweeping view of how far you've come. You might also meet fellow travelers here, individuals who've chosen a similar path of growth. Exchanging stories, learning from their perspectives, and forging alliances can refuel your spirit. In these shared moments, you see the bigger picture. You're not the only chosen one in ascent, and there's a collective strength in knowing others are on parallel journeys. As you stand on each plateau, you might feel a surge of gratitude for the old self you left behind, recognizing that without shedding those layers, you would never have found the courage to ascend at all. And while the summit still lies ahead, glimmering in the distance, your confidence grows with each mindful step you take toward it. This is how you learn that the climb itself transforms you, preparing you for the moment you finally reach your new peak. Chapter 5. When they look up to find you. By this point in your evolution, you've likely noticed that certain people from your past still try to define you by the person you once were. They're confused, perhaps even irritated, that you no longer fit their narrative. Sometimes they'll bring up old stories or jokes, attempting to pull you back into an identity you shed long ago. It's as if they're saying, "Remember that time you used to do this or think that," hoping it'll revive a version of you that no longer exists. This behavior can be rooted in nostalgia or discomfort with change. They might feel uneasy about watching you grow, especially if it casts a spotlight on areas where they feel stuck. Yet the reality is, if they want to reconnect with you in an authentic way, they'll have to look for you at this higher vantage point. You're no longer residing in the same emotional or mental space. You're ascending, and you can't and shouldn't descend just to make them comfortable. Some people might simply fade out of your life. They'll continue living in a world where you remain the old you, a static character in their internal storyline. But you understand that this doesn't invalidate the new path you're carving. Those truly meant to journey with you will do the work of looking up, of climbing even a few steps themselves to meet you in your expanded reality. They'll sense your growth and see it as an opportunity to elevate themselves as well. It's not about scorning or dismissing anyone. It's about holding a loving space for them to either evolve or stay where they are. The key is that you don't allow their inertia or skepticism to weigh you down. You've come too far, faced too many personal battles to let your momentum be derailed. Think of it as carrying a torch that lights your path. If others want to join, they'll bring their own torch, or at least walk in the light you're offering. If not, they'll have to remain in the dimness of their old perceptions. Over time, you might be surprised to see who eventually catches up. A friend you thought you lost contact with may suddenly appear, inspired by the changes they've witnessed from a distance. Or a family member who once criticized your ambitions might quietly start asking how they can adopt similar habits. In those moments, you see the ripple effect of your transformation. None of this is about gloating or placing yourself above anyone else. It's simply the reality that once you begin to rise, the ground you stood on becomes less relevant to your immediate journey. The next time people from your past attempt to define you, you can offer them a glimpse of who you are now. If they're genuinely curious, they'll adapt. If not, you continue upward, confident in the knowledge that the old you is truly gone, replaced by a spirit that's bolder, wiser, and more aligned with life's higher possibilities. Chapter 6. Harnessing the Power of Letting Go. A significant aspect of embracing your new identity involves letting go, not just of people, but also of the internal baggage that's weighed you down for too long. Old insecurities, regrets, and limiting beliefs can linger like shadows, attempting to pull you back into outdated versions of yourself. In this chapter of your transformation, you learn that releasing what no longer serves you is just as crucial as adopting new habits or mindsets. This process might feel akin to shedding layers of old skin. At first, the peeling away can be uncomfortable, even painful, as you confront aspects of yourself you've avoided for years. Maybe it's a deep-seated fear of failure that once drove every decision you made, or perhaps it's a need for approval from others that kept you shrinking yourself so as not to stand out too boldly. These old patterns don't vanish overnight. They demand your presence, your willingness to face them head-on, and make a conscious choice to release them. You discover that letting go isn't a passive act. It's an active dialogue with your own past. It involves forgiving yourself for mistakes or lapses in judgment, allowing yourself the grace to recognize you did the best you could with what you knew at the time, and may also mean forgiving those who hurt you, without necessarily inviting them back into your life. The act of forgiveness becomes less about excusing behavior and more about unchaining yourself from resentments that drain your energy. As you lighten your load, you create room for fresh energy to flow in. You will notice an increase in synchronicities and intuitive insights. Situations that used to trigger you lose their hold, and you can respond from a place of calm or even compassion. This doesn't mean you're suddenly immune to life's challenges, but it does mean you're no longer bound by the same reactions that once defined you. In practical terms, letting go may involve reorganizing your physical space. Perhaps you'll declutter your living area, discarding objects that remind you of past regrets or relationships that have run their course. Or you might find yourself changing your daily schedule, replacing idle screen time with something more nurturing, like a walk in nature or a session of journaling. Each act of release signals to the universe that you're ready to embrace what's next. The power of letting go lies in its ability to propel you forward without the weight of unfinished emotional business dragging you down. Suddenly, the climb toward your higher potential doesn't feel so daunting because you're no longer carrying yesterday's burdens on your back. You stand taller, breathe more freely, and see further. It's a remarkable gift to grant yourself the freedom to evolve unencumbered, allowing space for the new you to fully blossom. Chapter 7. Rising to meet your new self. With so much behind you and so much is still ahead, you find yourself in a place of awe. Who you were has been replaced by someone who understands that growth is the true essence of life. You've shed old skins, outgrown familiar roles, and navigated the uneasy path of shifting relationships. Now, standing on the threshold of this expanded reality, you feel a sense of anticipation mingled with profound calm. It's as though you're finally living in alignment with what you always suspected you could be. Here, at this crucial juncture, you realize that the new you isn't just a temporary phase. It's the doorway to infinite possibilities, each beckoning for exploration. Whether it's launching a creative project, forging a new career path, or taking a leap of faith in love, you sense that the horizon is much broader than you ever imagined. You also understand that this evolution isn't a one-time event, but a continuous dance, a dynamic process of unfolding more of your gifts and heightening your awareness. As you rise to meet this fresh version of yourself, the concept of the top shifts. It's less about reaching a final destination and more about perpetually stretching your limits, scaling new summits whenever the opportunity arises. You realize that those who once underestimated or misunderstood you may eventually look up, astonished at your altitude. But rather than focusing on proving them wrong, you focus on the exhilaration of what lies ahead. This new sense of self brings with it an unwavering clarity. You can discern which opportunities serve your higher calling and which are merely distractions. It becomes easier to say no without guilt and to say yes with full conviction. The doubts that used to rattle around in your mind lose their authority as you lean into the steady rhythm of your inner knowing. This is what it feels like to stand in your power, unafraid of the judgments or limitations others might project onto you. And so, you continue onward and upward, step by faithful step, guided by the intuition you've nurtured through every challenge and triumph. The path still has twists and turns. There will always be new lessons to learn, but you no longer fear them. Each obstacle becomes a stepping stone. Each setback a lesson that propels you further into the new chapter of your life. In these unfolding days, you cultivate practices that anchor your growth. Mornings begin with intentional silence, moments of gratitude for the person you were and the person you are becoming. You map out your vision in a journal, drawing not only goals but the emotions you intend to embody: courage, compassion, and unwavering faith. You carve out time each week to study ancient wisdom texts and contemporary guides, weaving their insights into your own voice so that your message resonates with timeless truth and modern relevance alike. You also strengthen the community around you. Intentional gatherings, small circles, masterminds, or virtual salons become sacred grounds where ideas spark and mutual support flourishes. You share your breakthroughs and your raw questions, knowing that vulnerability begets collective resilience. In turn, you champion others' sense, celebrating their victories and offering guidance when they wobble. This reciprocal energy magnifies your own momentum, reminding you that lifting others is part of rising yourself. Meanwhile, you remain vigilant against new forms of resistance. Success can be a magnet for envy and negativity. You've learned to spot the subtle currents of sabotage, comments meant to diminish your worth, or situations designed to divert your focus. When these arise, you respond not with defensiveness, but with a quiet return to your center. You breathe into the space between stimulus and reaction, recalibrating to the frequency of your divine permission. As your visibility expands, so too does your sense of responsibility. You understand that every word you speak and every action you take carries weight. Before committing to a new venture, you ask yourself, does this serve the greater good? Does it uplift the collective? If the answer is yes, you press forward with full force. If not, you gracefully decline, preserving your energy for what truly matters. Yet even with this fierce discipline, you honor rest. You recognize that collapsing into exhaustion undermines your ability to sustain this ascent. Strategic pauses, retreats into nature, digital Sabbaths, and days of creative play nourish your soul and replenish your vision. In those moments of spaciousness, new inspirations germinate, and you return to your work with renewed clarity. Now, as you stand on this precipice of endless possibility, you feel a surge of fierce gratitude. The old you is gone, and in that letting go, you have forged a version of yourself more alive, more radiant, and more ready than ever to confront the unknown. You sense a pulse of destiny in every heartbeat, the call of adventure in every breath. Like this video if you resonate with this horizon-expanding journey. Subscribe so we can continue scaling new heights together, and comment 77 feet below to declare that you're standing strong in your new self. Replay this message whenever you need to remember the summit isn't a place but a state of being.